What is going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, today is a special pre-tape episode.
For good reason.
Only slight. It's Robert's fault, but for a better reason than normal.
First of all, we had to say hi to future Andy and Robert because while this is being aired, we'll be working on some Up by Up Down.
Yes, that is the reason, because what is it? Yes, Robert, in his very busy schedule, has been able to carve out some time, so we're gonna do this pre-tape, and then while this pre-tape goes live, we will actually then be filming for Robert's show Up by Up Down, and so it's still Robert's fault, but it's for better reasons.
And for the pre-tape, I'm also broadcasting from my deathbed because I am really sick today.
Yes, because Robert is just working himself to death, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. I caught something like right after I got out of work yesterday. I just felt really kind of feverish and just didn't feel good at all. And just when I woke up this morning, it was just, yep, I'm sick.
Maybe you handled an envelope full of anthrax or something.
Could be. So I'm probably gonna die.
Yes. So it really is his deathbed. But anyways, let's get this conversation started. So, did you do anything over the weekend?
What did I do over the weekend? I didn't really. Oh, you know what? Well, I've been a friend of ours that the episode has not aired yet, I don't believe, but one of our friends of the podcast who came on to interview Lane's Lair, I've been helping him out with a project he's been trying to help out like his aunt take care of like her estate, and her house needs a lot of cleaning, and it's gonna take. I mean, if it's just the two of us, it's gonna take a while, just because it's one of those things we have to do it, piece by piece by piece to try to get everything, sorted through, figure out what's treasure, what's trash, and then just kind of doing stuff like that. So I was helping out with that after work on Saturday, and then other than that, just like mainly church and just getting getting some trying to get some gaming done and some work done for the podcast, but really nothing too exciting.
I see. Okay. So you didn't do anything for St. Patrick's Day?
No, not really. Like I was thinking that I was gonna go out with a few of my friends, but it was like I wasn't gonna be able to go, or like they weren't able to go at the time that like I wanted to go, and so I just kind of had some beers to myself.
Let's see.
And okay, well, speaking of St. Patrick's Day, I still think this is true, but like a lot of people obviously like you'll have the people wear green, and it's kind of celebrate Irish Catholic culture, which is very weird, just because of how vilified the Irish community has been in America,
right.
Much less their own country. But in reality, like you can also obviously I'm not Catholic, so why would I wear green to support Catholicism? So I think the Protestants will wear orange, which is kind of the other side of the Irish flag. So I made sure that I wore orange on St. Patrick's Day, as I might get some hate comments for that. It's like from the Irish, like, no fucking way. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
And I think I believe that's the reason. Like it's because Ireland is very divided between
Right.
Catholic and Protestant.
Yeah.
To the point where like there was a lot of battles faced off between those two. And I think that's also kind of like the what their flag stands for too, is you have the opposing sides, and kind of like they found some sort of common ground, where it's not quite as contentious as it was, even like 50 years ago.
Right. Because I mean, Northern Ireland is still a part of Britain, or English Empire, and
Yeah.
and like the rest of Ireland is its own country, more or
Or
less.
they have some sort of sovereignty to a point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I never knew that. God dang, you're so contagious. You're like giving it to me, even though I haven't even seen you yet. Um, but yeah, I didn't know like the whole thing with like the green and the orange, like how the Protestants would wear orange. That's interesting. I never.
Yeah, I remember. I remember reading like a couple articles on that, probably about I don't know, like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And because I never knew that either. Because for me, it's like, oh, you just wear green on St. Patrick's Day or whatever, and you get shit faced. But yeah, it was. I thought that was very, very interesting, and I hope it's true, because it's kind of like I've been doing that for pretty much the last like 10 years or so.
Oh, you've been wearing orange on St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah.
Well, at least now I have options, because I don't know. I hardly own a green thing in my wardrobe, so. I mean, I don't own anything orange either, but but it's nice. It's nice to keep my options open for that day.
The reason I have a lot of orange, well, for one, I have a lot of family that either goes to or works for Syracuse University, so I have a lot of those shirts. And I also own a lot of Harley Davidson shirts too, so there's that as well.
I see.
So I have and orange is actually my favorite color to be, which side note.
I didn't know. I didn't realize.
Actually, the my
it kind of makes sense now because all the Cactus Cooler, but
yeah, maybe that's why I like Cactus Cooler so much.
Maybe because it's orange.
Yeah, my childhood bedroom. Well, sometimes like when I'm over visiting my parents, when we do nocturnal transmissions, that bedroom, I painted, the ceiling is orange, with like the walls kind of a kind of beigeish with like black trim. So yeah, because orange is actually it's my favorite color, and I didn't want my whole room to be painted orange because that would be just too much.
Right.
So we just did the ceiling, and it's not like it's more of a burnt orange, a little bit, not like a fluorescent orange.
Right. That's what. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even if it was just like a wall or something, like an accent thing, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if I could stand to look at orange that often. I mean, nothing against the color itself, but it's just.
No, I understand. Like it's like you said, it's most people like when they're thinking like favorite colors. Oh, I like blue, or I like green, or I like whatever black or white. But me, I'm just like, I don't know. Orange is just maybe because it's that contrarian view in me.
I mean, what is it? I guess because you described it as a burnt orange and not like that bright fluorescing kind of orange. I guess that could be uh, more tolerable.
Yeah, like it's not like an overwhelmingly bright orange because that's like that's too much.
Right. Yeah, so it's not like a can of Sunkist or whatever.
No, God, no.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, so orange.
So now the audience knows a little bit more about some of my personal tastes.
Yes, indeed. What did I do this weekend? I did go out. I didn't wear green, even though I went out to a bar. But no one, no one seemed to mind. So
yeah,
that was a blessing. Even if and then even if someone did like call me out on it, I could just said, well, maybe I like being pinched.
True.
So.
Oh, that cute girl over there. If you want to pinch me, that's okay.
I know, right? Like, you want to pinch me, girl? Shh, go for it.
Yeah, it was funny because I remember when we were trying to set up stuff for filming for Up by Up Down, and when I asked you if why don't we do like Saturday night, I completely spaced that it was St. Patrick's Day. I was like, it's like, and when I thought about it, I was like, oh, you know what? That's probably the reason why he didn't want to go. He didn't want to film. I was like, that actually makes sense.
You are correct, sir. I was like, man, do I really want to give up the one holiday where it is kind of encouraged to drink? I mean, I didn't drink to excess or to the point of being blacked out, but here. I mean,
I would have figured it out and had drinks here, but yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Where I was like, because it was like a few days later, it's like I wonder if he because I was thinking like, oh, maybe he has some sort of family thing going on or whatever. It's like you're like Saturday just does not work for me, and then a few days later, it's like, oh shit, it's St. Patrick's Day. No wonder he didn't want to go. He wants to party.
Yeah, I wanted to tempt some girl to kiss my Barney Stone.
Very smart.
Yes.
You made a wise decision.
What was that?
Your decision was most wise.
Yes. I chose. I did not choose poorly.
Yeah.
But I guess speaking of that part of the world, there has been some news from the United Kingdom, Britain, what have you, and it's a story. God, I always forget this guy's real name, but he's a YouTuber by the name of Count Dankula. And for those of you who are not aware, he put out a video where he taught his dog to do the Nazi salute. So whenever he would say "Zig Heil," the dog would like lift up his little paw or whatever, and whenever he said "gas the Jews," he kind of conditioned the dog to get like all excited and riled up whenever he said "gas the Jews." And the reason for this was because it wasn't even his dog; it was his girlfriend's dog. And, he was just kind of sick of the girlfriend going on and on about how adorable the dog was, and, how, like, this dog was, like, the best, one of the best things that happened to her in her life or whatever. And so he, he decided, like, oh, let's, she loves this thing so damn much and thinks it's, like, the greatest thing ever. What's a way that I could make this dog not so great? And he thought and thought and thought, and he came to the epiphany of like, let's make it into a Nazi. Let's make it like the most extreme, unlovable thing or most like non-cute thing possible, and that is a Nazi. And
That's
so,
wow.
what was that?
No, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it was just a joke. But if you were not aware, in the UK there are speech codes
Right.
codified into their laws, and so he was actually arrested and he was tried recently for offensive speech. And I mean, and I kind of bring this up, because was it last week? I think it was last week. Last week I talked about the whole thing that happened in England with those three people, Lauren
Right.
Southern,
Right.
Brittany Pettibone, Martin Selner, and so yeah, it finally came to a head, and the verdict came down on Count Dankula, and he was found guilty of being grossly offensive.
Wow.
And so yeah, and so he is now he is now facing either prison time or I think house arrest. He still hasn't been sentenced yet. His sentencing is going to happen next month. But yeah, this guy is going to go to prison for over a joke.
That's intense.
Yeah, right. And I mean, people have been, commenting on it. Actually, Ricky Gervais actually commented on it on Twitter, and I think it's really interesting because Ricky Gervais, I think, I respect Ricky Gervais because, he's for free speech, but and it was funny because he actually, I respected him whole. What won me over on Ricky Gervais was he made a joke about Caitlyn Jenner, and during the time where it was like if you made fun of her, it's like you might as well have had like a swastika armband and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but so I was like, man, mad props to him.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, to say the least. And yeah, I remember that Bruce Jenner joke. That was I refuse to call him Caitlyn.
Fair enough, but yeah, it was funny too. Because it was right about the time where it was fine. He got into that accident and accidentally killed the person.
Yeah, right. And, like, no one talks about that.
Nobody talks about that part. They talk about how he's so brave and wonderful and beautiful and all this other stuff, but they gloss over the part where he accidentally killed a person.
Yeah, they gloss over that, and if you follow their kind of, now we're down this rabbit hole. It makes me wonder if he is now a completely different person, different gender, like the Bruce Jenner is dead,
Right.
long live Caitlyn.
I mean,
so then how?
If you think of it about that way, then yeah, then this is a completely different person who and so then you cannot. But then you cannot associate anything that Bruce Jenner did with this new person, Caitlyn. So when they even went so far as to change like the Wikipedia page and said like Caitlyn Jenner won the 19 what was it 80? It was in the 80s or the 70s.
70s.
70s, right? 1970s, like men's 300-meter dash or pole vault or whatever. And it's like
right, yeah. It's like, well, it can't be both ways. He's either like a brand new person, or like he's still Bruce Jenner. It's kind of, it can't be like, it can't be both.
Right. Well, like I guess because the thinking behind that is like, oh, even when he was a man, he was a woman.
Yeah,
And so it's like it doesn't matter like if he was, if he identified as male back then, since he now identifies as woman, that means he was always a woman, even when he was identified as a man.
Wow, that is just dumb logic,
right? So I mean, yeah. So then, like, then who do we hold to account for, like that person he unintentionally killed? Do we hang it on Bruce, or does the new person of Caitlyn still hold responsibility?
Right. And it's just there's that, and the other thing is like when he won like the female athlete of the year, it's like he hasn't done anything in 40 years. Like
right. I mean, the only thing you could say is like he I don't know about stars, but he participates on that show, or he used to participate on that show, with his family.
True, but like that's not a sporting achievement.
Right. Again, it has nothing to do with his past accomplishment of like sports excellence.
Yeah,
it's just like his capacity to tolerate a camera in his face constantly.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, okay, if you are looking for a female athlete, if you do, and like all right, if he is now a female, there's so many other like female athletes that were out there that were probably way more deserving who are currently playing in their sporting fields, and
right.
and it's just I don't know. ESPN is now to me it's a former sports network. It's no longer.
I mean, it is. Yeah, it totally is, because they constantly push, political ideology and like they no longer, comment on sports. It's just like, today in baseball, Cuba African American player such and such, offended, offended. Oh God, all these freaking identities. I mean, a Japanese, part orc. Third baseman, saying that orc lives don't matter or whatever. It's just like.
Yeah, it gets to the point where it's like it gets really ridiculous.
Yeah, did he run? Like I mean, I don't watch sports that much, but as some, on occasion, I'll like flip past ESPN. All I want to know is, who hit the furthest ball, who ran the fastest, who scored the most runs,
who's on first,
Yeah, who's on first? That's all I care about. That's all I care about. I don't care what what's going on in that in a player's heart or head. It's irrelevant, because that's not the reason why I pay attention to him or her. It's their athletic ability, and that's it. I don't care what they think. I don't care what they believe, as long as they can hit, run, or handle a puck. That's all I care about.
Yeah, it's because for me it's gotten to the point where like, I've started to like pare down like my the sports that I watch. I've kind of like just focused in back on like I'm pretty much focused on baseball and auto racing, which is in all its forms, and but yeah, like I can't. And I used to watch ESPN a lot, like all the time, and it used to be pretty awesome. And then just for whatever reason, like within, like the last like 5 or 10 years, it really shifted. Like some of the personnel that I liked that were, really good reporters and all that, they're gone. And it really like became something that's like, it's not about sports anymore. It's like, well, I don't need to go to ESPN to like, I don't want to hear about like, their identity politics, or about whatever like ridiculous agenda that somebody has. It's like I just want to hear about like the sport, like and I think a lot of times like the certain accomplishments are, it's just kind of like, we're really kind of degrading like what it means to accomplish something. Like, he's the first this and that person to like jump this high, like woo, and it's like okay, it's why is that a big deal? Yes. It's not like somebody told him he could never jump in his life. It's kind of, you look at like, because I look at it as something like when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball. That was something. That was an accomplishment, because that took a lot of guts, and to me, he's kind of like, he's a real man, because he had like a lot of like frustration and anger that he had to sheathe to make sure that like he didn't like set back like that movement to break the color barrier in baseball, and he did it.
Right, because if he did, then he's like, oh, see, just another angry black man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that to me, that's a real accomplishment. Like, or a lot of the other like early like black stars or whatever, like those are real accomplishments. But like when we're starting
to and let's not take it away. Let's not take try to take that away from them. And I guess an underserved minority or whatever, or people's group that actually attain some success. Yes, great, great for them. But it's just let's not utterly and totally fixate on that to the point where we're starting having to carve out like all these special little niches for for every kind of people group, or like when is the award gonna go to like the first like mixed race ball player or whatever, and
yeah. But like for me, it's like and it has nothing to do with like I really could care less like where like a player is from or what their skin color is. Like, I just want to see them like perform well. Like that's all I care about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't watch sports for like whatever like whatever identity politics that they purport to have. I just want to watch like a good game. And there's been that debate in between like baseball executives, like, oh, because they're concerned that that black ball players are not quite what it was like 20 years ago. Like it's gone down quite a bit. And they're like, well, what can we do? Well, how can we like better engage like that community to bring in more of like more of them into our sport? And I don't think it's necessarily like I mean, baseball, like any sport, is kind of sort of expensive. Baseball is like one of the more expensive sports to play as a kid, especially with all the travel that's involved. But I don't think it's necessarily like a race issue. I think it's more of a generational issue, because now we have a generation where we need to have it like right now. Everything has to come like right now. And sports, like if you're good enough, sports like football and basketball, you're pretty much like, if you're really good, it's much more instantaneous like fame and fortune. Whereas baseball, everyone has to earn their stripes in baseball. Like you have to go through the minor leagues. You have to learn and develop and like learn. You have to learn a lot, and I think that's kind of the reason why I like baseball so much, because you have to earn your way there. Like nothing's handed to you. Same with like NASCAR. Like nobody that's in the like in the highest division, the Cup Series, no one was handed a ride. Like everyone that's there has like earned it from their accomplishments and everything that they've done. And not that like people who go and play basketball or football haven't earned their way either, but it's definitely a much quicker road if you're good in those sports.
True, because like what was it? I mean, there are very few cases, but like LeBron, he completely bypassed going to college and playing ball, and then getting drafted. He was just like immediately after high school, he got signed to the Cavaliers.
Exactly, and that's fine. Like he was really good.
Right. I mean, if your skill warrants that exception, then more power. I guess more power. To you because because your skills can demand that kind of paycheck or that kind of exemption from doing things. I guess the normal way.
Yeah. And
so,
to be honest, as much as like I really can't stand LeBron, the man is like he's fun to watch. Like he's a great basketball player.
He's a showman. He's a showman.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make the comparison, but in some ways, not to the same degree, but maybe similar to the way Jordan was kind of a showman.
He's the greatest showman.
Yeah,
you can make that argument.
Yeah, because like because Jordan's a legend. No, there's no dispute about that. Him,
Nope.
Playing with like the flu and with like 103 fever that one game, or making, dunking from the the 3-point line, and all that kind of stuff. He was kind of like unintentional showman. Because he just performed. Because he had that drive. He had it within himself to, say that I'm gonna distinguish myself from every other player by doing these seemingly impossible things.
Right.
And he just did them. And in that way, like he was the greatest showman.
Yeah, he really was.
I mean, and not to take away from LeBron, but his is a little bit more calculated and thought out, like the way, like even like his whole like entrance with like the chalk and things like that.
Well, and I like even that, like it's kind of like I like the little kind of the showmanship and kind of the I like a lot of those antics. Just
right, like the little flourishes. Yeah.
Exactly. I like a little bit of flair in my sports stars. Like I don't want the mechanical answers and just the we all had a great game and
it gave 110%. Some I think the success was because of my amphibiousness.
Yeah, it's like I like the trash talk and the flair, and I don't know, I like that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's because it's kind of sports is kind of like the last bastion of like reality television, real reality. So having
or at least you say like unscripted reality.
Yeah, exactly. And something that one of the great things about NASCAR sometimes is rivalries are awesome. Because sometimes there's fights after the race or just the some of the one-liners that come out of some because they're getting interviewed right after like getting wrecked or something, and so they're pissed. So you're getting their like it's one of the few sports where that happens. And I remember one of my favorites was there was two drivers. This is probably I think 2002. And it was between a driver named Kurt Busch and a driver who's no longer racing, Jimmy Spencer. And they've had several run-ins with one another. And so the guy, Jimmy Spencer, wrecked Kurt Busch within like the first like 10 laps. And in his interview, Kurt Busch was saying, he's like, it's just a real shame that we we qualified, back there with the old has-beens like Jimmy Spencer, or I'm sorry, in his case, a never was, which is just like, because Jimmy Spencer was not necessarily the best race car driver on the planet, but it was just kind of something like that was like really, stuff like that is really funny.
But it's funny because, I mean, because with like the hyper sensitivity of today's society, could that then, like, him, like, calling, throwing shade at was it Jimmy Spencer, like, could he then be penalized for that kind of talk?
Well, no, they stuff like
I mean,
that.
just
like,
I mean, just kind of.
NASCAR has been, they have something called the boys have at it rule, which is that's how NASCAR has always been. The only thing that they kind of poo-poo on is like when you start bashing the like the NASCAR as an organization, like, it's the cars just drive like crap, and it's all NASCAR's stupid rules and stuff like that. Once you start bashing the the organization, that's what they kind of like frown upon. But as far as trash talk between drivers, no, like they let that go. That's always been a thing.
But yeah, I'm just because we always because I don't know, nowadays it seems like all of like the slippery slope arguments are coming true because like with gay marriage, where it's like, it's like, once they, we allow like men to marry men and women to marry women, what's next? People marrying, marrying animals or to inanimate objects, and of course,
or marrying themselves,
and it's like the kind of refrain is like, oh, don't be silly, it'll never get to that extreme. But now, like, we have cases like that. And I mean, and like, and before people would say like, oh, first you say that I can't say these words, next you're gonna say, oh, I can't make fun of these people, and then sooner or later you're gonna not let me make fun of these people. It's like, oh, don't be silly, and then we have like this Count Dankula example where he was literally convicted for making a joke.
Was the joke in poor taste? Probably. You can make that argument, but it's no one's like, no one in their right mind thinks that was like that he's a Nazi and that like he's trying to,
or he was like, or he was like,
this like
or he was supporting Nazi. Yeah, it's not like I mean, anyone with two brain cells, and I specifically say two brain cells because we all know that more left-leaning people only have one brain cell.
Right.
Can tell that this guy wasn't promoting Nazi ideology, or he wasn't being anti-Semitic. He was just he was taking it to an extreme to highlight because like his girlfriend kept going on and on about how adorable this her dog was, so he wanted to make it the most adorable or unlikable thing in the world, which was a Nazi.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, this verdict sets a very dangerous precedent. Not just in the UK, but just in for the world, because it's like, oh well, because I'm sure this case is going to be referenced a lot, or it's going to be referenced, in other court proceedings,
right,
where people might be charged with similar charges, because we see it like in the Canadian transgender pronoun law, where it's like, are you really gonna are you really going to charge someone with a crime for not referring to someone by their preferred gender pronoun, even if it's just by accident? Like, say I'm meeting someone for the first time, and they present very much like a man or male or masculine, but they prefer female pronouns, and it's like, hey, where's
Like if you call
such
Lauren
and
Southern like a she, I mean, she might get mad.
right. I mean, yes, because what if 'cause I don't see
That was
her
a
ever.
joke,
I don't
Andy.
ever see her doing this, but what if she decided to kind of. I guess she could do it to make a point where she decides since she is officially recognized as a man in Canada, she could then decide to go by male pronouns. And so someone meeting her for the first time, is like, hey, where's Lauren? It's like, oh, she. It's like, well, what do you mean she? Don't you know Lauren is a man? You have to use and it's like, so you're
Yeah.
really gonna punish someone who you've never met, who you don't know anything about, for using the wrong pronoun.
Yeah, it's the emperor's not wearing any clothes.
Yeah.
But we can't point it out.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, it's a game of it's a game of I don't know, hot potato, or like
It's something. It's something where it
because like it's like because you get thrown this thing, and it's like is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to be spiky? You just don't know anymore. Because before the game was hot potato, and it's like you just knew that it was going to be hot. But now it could be cold, or spiked, or like poisoned, or whatever.
Radioactive. Yeah. It's in the cases of like Canada or the UK, they don't have an amendment like we do in our First Amendment rights to free speech.
Right.
But
in Canada, they do have free expression, but that's not the same thing as free speech.
Right, but it's not like there's not a legal protection for citizens, like where they're allowed to pull shenanigans like that. But if we're not careful in this country, if we really allow people to go like really crazy and like we got to ban all the words and like everything's offensive, it's like eventually like language itself will die out, and we're gonna thrust ourselves into a dark age.
Right. I mean, I guess this kind of is a good segue into the other thing I wanted to bring up, and that's for those of you that don't know about Hasta Muerta, Hasta Muerta Cafe in Oakland. They are denying service to police officers, or at least like uniformed police officers. And their rationale is that the police are like this basically a murder force, and so they're not gonna support police, or they're not gonna serve police who don't serve them, or something like that.
God.
And it's hilarious because I don't know, it has to be willful, but they have a post, like the most recent report I saw on this coffee shop was that they had a poster of Asada Shakur. And for those of you who don't know, she was a convicted cop killer, and a FBI most wanted person who escaped prison and fled to Cuba, where she was being protected by Fidel Castro.
Good Lord.
And and the poster says we accept Asada Shakur. So they will serve and allow a known cop killer and felon into their establishment, but they won't allow members of the police who protect and serve the community.
That's really intense.
Right? Right.
I mean,
But I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No. Go for it, Andy.
Oh well, I was gonna say. Well, there was some pushback from the community, and there are some people, who are for, law and order, and who support police, and they came out to protest. And the irony of ironies is that the shop owner then threatened to call the police on them.
Yeah, like they're gonna come out and help that person.
Right, and I mean they made it like such a public thing that they even put it up on like their Instagram account saying like, oh, we won't serve the police for the sake of our customers' like emotional and physical safety, and it's just like,
good Lord. It's kind of a it's hilarious in one sense where it's just like of just the the irony of like they're don't want to like serve cops, but they're gonna call the cops on like people who are protesting their business for, I would say, is a pretty legit reason to be protesting, not just for some outlandish dumbass reason. And the other thing is too, now have there been police officers who step over the line sometimes? Absolutely. Like that's no one's saying that, and like no one wants that. But there's the funny thing is a lot of the businesses that like serve cops, those are the safest places. Like no one's gonna come in and rob those places.
Right. No. Yeah. Because like no one wants, and plus like who's dumb enough to try and rob, a police haunt, where that
Exactly.
there's gonna be there are gonna be police. So that's like has to be like the most safest place in the entire like in the entire like city or community or area. So
and
what
I think
like
too,
by so when they say like emotional and physical like safety or well-being of their customers, it's like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, are you saying like all cops are murderers? Are you saying all cops just become once they put on that badge, they're no longer a person, they're just some killing machine?
All right, let's gun down some innocent people today. Like that's not what's going on in their head. Like I say, that it's a lot of what happens is these false statistics or facts are not like shared properly, or in some cases I think are hidden in a lot of ways.
No.
And
I remember just to do like a while back, like peak Black Lives Matter like kind of activism. I was kind of curious, and so I did do a little research, and what was it? The death rate by cops. It was actually white people were being killed at twice the rate as black people.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like about I think what was it? It was like I can't remember like the total number, but but the rate at which black people were being like gunned down was, or the rate that white people were being gunned down was double that of black people, and also a cop is 18 and a half times more likely to be shot than to shoot at a suspect.
Well, especially nowadays, because I think like some of them are like like they probably freeze a little bit. Like, well, if I do
another
this,
thing,
and then
that the cops are more likely to shoot at a white suspect than they are at a black suspect.
Yeah, it's
and also like the circumstances of which like that a force is applied, because god dang, you see like all those videos of like the the extreme like force and like and like you see like 3 cops piling on top of one black kid or something, and it could be argued, yes, they're using excessive force, but if you actually read some of the incident reports, well, I mean, I didn't read all of them, but I read like the breakdown of all of the kind of circumstances precipitating black arrests, and a lot of them said the reporting was that there was resisting arrest.
Yeah,
and so
there's a lot of people that are resisting arrest.
Right, and and resisting arrest can simply mean either they're just like saying, no, I'm not going to be arrested, and just like standing, kind of like being kind of flipped towards them, or like actively, or yeah, and that's another thing, like in that resisting arrest, there's like the report of them like actually trying to go for the cop's weapon was pretty high.
Which at that point you kind of you've pretty much forfeit your life at that point. Like you don't.
Right.
Yeah. Like when you start like pulling out like a knife or some sort of weapon, or go for anyone's gun for that matter, like at that point like you forfeit your life, because now it's like it's in the case of it's you versus me, and it sure as hell ain't gonna be me. It's
right,
I don't.
Like,
it's not a choice that
I choose me over you.
Every step of the way.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 times. 7 days a week, 365 days a year, I pick me over you every time. And so, yeah, but it also brings up the other question of compelled service. Because we have the example of, like the Christian baker who was forced to make the cake for the gay wedding, or or even like the mystic, or like the pizza parlor in Michigan, I think it was, where they were just taking part in a survey like by some like journalist or whatever, or quote unquote journalist, right, who said like, who was just simply asking, would you serve a gay wedding? And then the guy said, no, I wouldn't. And then their business was almost destroyed over it. Even because it wasn't even like a gay couple came to him and said like, we want you to we want your pizza parlor to cater our wedding. He was right, just asked. He's like, I wouldn't, and he was the pizza shop owner was reamed for it. So it was like, so are we gonna then be consistent and apply that to this coffee shop? Are we gonna compel them to serve the police, even though that they are a private business? I think a business should have the right to engage with or transact with whoever they wish. But if we're gonna make someone go against their religious conviction,
yeah,
then shouldn't we then make someone go against their political convictions?
And the crazy thing, if like this was somebody that was not like of the Jewish or Christian faith, like if it was anybody else, and like because you look at like something like Islam, or even like there's a lot of religions where like gay activity is very frowned upon,
right?
Like, but you don't hear word one about like them going to those type of places and attacking it. And
right, there was actually a pretty well-known, I don't know well-known, but a popular cathedral in LA, I believe, where on their website they said that they do gay weddings.
Right.
And I'm just like, and it's like I don't know if it's Catholic or Protestant, but it's a church. It's definitely a church. But right, they say on their website that they will perform gay weddings. And I don't know how
That's a
much of
little
it is like some sort of coercion or some sort of or some form or some idea or some strategy on um, placation.
yeah.
But
The
or I don't even, or like maybe it's just like that particular church has like a very loosey goosey kind of ideology.
that's most likely
So
the
those are the
case.
three things
They're
that those are the three hypotheses or theories that I have.
yeah.
But
I'd
it's
probably
just
go with
like
the third, because a lot of those churches tend to have more loosey goosey theology.
mhm. Right.
You know,
So
the thing that and there when I think about this too is like when uh, and I heard this put pretty well by a pastor friend of mine, and pretty much like it's saying it's like it's not that like, so you look at like stuff like being gay or gay marriage or whatever, it's like it's not a it's just as bad as like someone who like is an adulterer or a liar or whatever. And it's when it comes to like going to or serving like a gay wedding, it's not just like, because people say, oh, you just do it, like it's why would you not do it? It's like, well, when you're a wedding is like so much more than just like an event between um it's not just like some event or party, like you're giving your like your thumbs up that you are supporting and giving adherence to like this union or thing is you're giving your support.
mhm.
And as a believer, like I can't do that. Like it's just it's not because I hate gay people. Like I've had gay friends. I talked to a lot of gay people, and I don't care. Like and honestly, like I kind of don't care that like it's kind of sort of semi legal in the United States, just because I'm not going to hold someone to a standard that like of rules that they obviously they're not,
Yeah, that
if
they
they're not
don't
Christian.
agree upon themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
can't hold them
it'd be
to.
one thing. It'd be one thing, if someone who was gay and they didn't claim to be a Christian and they lived a homosexual lifestyle. But it'd be another thing if there was a gay person who claimed to be a Christian but lived a homosexual lifestyle.
Yeah, but and the other thing too is just like I wouldn't necessarily go to a like a gay wedding. I might not necessarily go to someone's wedding where like they had cheated on like a previous spouse and they're marrying that next person, like, because I don't really support that. I can't put my support behind that either. I probably would not go or serve that wedding in some fashion or another. Like, as if I was if I was an officiator for for weddings, I don't think I would be able to officiate that wedding. I wouldn't feel comfortable
Right?
doing
Yeah,
that. Like
a friend of
knowing,
mine, yeah, had the same situation where he had a friend who was gay and the friend was gonna get married and he was invited, but he really struggled with like the whole thing of you know Christ's example of showing love to everybody, but but also adhering to kind of his convictions about homosexuality and you know
yeah. And I think like what becomes why it's so why it's looked down upon so much more than like because it's something that everyone's able to kind of see. It's out in the open, and whereas like someone who is a notorious liar or they've cheated people or like cheated on like their spouse or whatever. A lot of those things don't really get seen. Those are more like kind of like hidden sins, but they're still just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
And like and it's just for whatever reason, homosexuality is just so it's just out in the open. Everyone can kind of see it, and I think that's where people feel super uncomfortable with it. Like especially those of us who have the Christian faith. But like I was saying, it's not just a like, oh, I hate gay people, I don't want to see them get married, blah blah blah. It's like, no, I personally don't care, but like it's kind of, if I'm being putting my faith to the fire, like I wouldn't necessarily, I'm not going to support a like a homosexual marriage because, well, it kind of for that reason, but like it's the same reason like I wouldn't really support like someone who's getting married who, like I said, cheated on their spouse and now they're getting married to that other person. It's like, it's kind of like I can't support that union. It's not right. It's like I said, it's not just a oh, because they're gay, like I can't support it. It's like it's more of like you can't just have because it's not just like an event. It's like you're giving your thumbs up, like this is a good and like a good and great thing. But I don't know. I think it's a much more complicated issue. Come on, man, just it's gay people. Like it's 2018. Get with the times. It's like, it's like, yeah, I know the.
So I have a calendar. I know what year
I wasn't
it is.
trapped in a coma for the last 20 years.
But yeah, it's just I mean, to kind of bring it back to the story, the topic. It's just like then this coffee shop, by all precedents and standards that came before it, should be compelled to serve cops coffee.
Yeah.
But they're not. No one's calling for that. It's because they'll people of that sort will never live by the standards that they set for others.
Yeah.
And it's the funny thing is because they especially Christianity, they always claim that Christians demand that they live by Christian morals or standards, when that's not really the case. If you choose and you come to reconcile it within your own mind to believe in Jesus and decide to follow him, then yes, then you are subject to those standards. You are subject to the rules, to the moral code of Christianity. But
yeah, it's, like I said, it's a very like complicated issue, and for me, like I said, I personally don't really care, but then like it's also something where I want, if I wouldn't like stop someone like who's gay that like is from coming to church. Like it's like, just because like someone is like gay or whatever, it doesn't mean that like they can't be a Christian. That's kind of ridiculous too. And there's part of it like where,
but you'd want them to play by the rules of the sandbox that were established.
Yeah. But I think also too, in the case of like this business, like just like how I'm not okay with how like those Christian bakers were treated. Like if this coffee shop, like as ridiculous as it is, if that's the way they want to do business, I say let them conduct their business that way. And
I mean, I'm also I'm a free I'm kind of like a free market person too, where it's like, okay, they're not going to serve the cops. I'm sure there's another shop that will serve cops no problem.
Right.
But I
And
think it's just like,
they're
but I think it's just I don't know, because like I don't know
yeah. Well,
the sense of I don't want to watch, but I guess the sense of justice, I would say, is because these people demand you conform to their way of seeing things, the way they do things. But yet once you start speaking out against it, once you demand that these people then live by those same rules, they say, oh, no, 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 not for us though. And I think
yeah, like
that's where I kind of wish that uh, more protests against this shop will kind of spur up to make them to pressure them into acting by the standards, by the rules that they had set for others.
right. No, trust me, I see the hypocrisy in like what they're trying to do, or just it's one of those things. It's like it wasn't right for them to attack those Christian bakeries when there was clearly other like places that they could have gone, like where they're like, oh yeah, whatever, like we'll just it's and if certain it's a kind of if you want to make that stand, then okay, there's going to be another shop that's going to calculate, or that's going to place that's going to jump on the chance to like make extra revenue that person is giving up. Okay, great.
Right.
If that's what you want to do,
Right. I
and
mean,
that business will either thrive or destroy itself. It's one of
right, and it goes back to that old debate rule where it's like, when your opponent is making a mistake, don't stop them.
exactly.
And so, yeah, so if this coffee shop wants to alienate, I mean, I know they're not a protected class like women or minorities are, but yeah, if this coffee shop wants to discriminate against police officers, then let them discriminate against police officers, and let's see how quickly the police respond to cries help from this coffee shop.
Oh
You
yeah, I'll
know,
be there and as soon as I can.
but yeah, we're gonna get there as soon as we get off our coffee break. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's the what was it? Because Chick-fil-A like obviously took a lot of heat when they their owner or CEO or whoever they had that stance against gay marriage, and they didn't fold, like they stuck to
Yeah, they stood their ground,
to
and
their guns,
guess what? They're
and
still Chick-fil-A's.
they're thriving. That's the
Yeah,
thing. Like
yeah.
they're popping up everywhere. And well, I love Chick-fil-A, not because of that stance, but like just because it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they're not open on Sundays. Like that's missed out revenue. But like they've taken the stance and they've stuck with it and they've thrived.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's people, the general like public, they see like take a stance, stick to your guns, don't be
Right.
don't allow yourself to be bullied by like assholes. And like you see like now like a lot of the these businesses that are dumping like support of like the NRA or like other organizations, and it's like, why? Like don't just like, because like some like it's tragic, it's a tragic thing what happened to those kids in Florida and like these other school shootings, but you're being bullied into something that's like that shouldn't have anything to do like with your business, like. And
Right. I think.
I was very proud of like like FedEx and like some of these other businesses. They're like, no, we're gonna continue to support like the NRA and like members of the NRA and all that stuff. So good on them.
Right. I think the lesson is that, yes, for lesson for businesses is that, yes, you might take an initial hit in revenue or standing in your specific industry, but if you already provide a good product or a good service, and you show that you have standards and you have a moral code, then other people recognize that and they will support you.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you shouldn't be afraid of the paltry number that you lose or miss out on initially, because you're gonna get it back, and you're gonna get it back 5-10-fold.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, when you start, like, it's just, it's, and, the crazy thing is, like, they never said, like, like Chick-fil-A, for example, like, they never said that, like, that they're never going to serve gay people. No,
Right.
they never reported that. That was
Right.
not their stance. Like, they could care less. But, like, when it comes to, like, no, we don't believe that is,
or it wasn't even
marriage.
like Chick-fil-A's official stance. It was just the CEO's stance.
Exactly.
Just like, oh, I don't believe in gay marriage. It's like, that doesn't mean that the entirety of Chick-fil-A, is against gay marriage or gay people or what have you. It's just that. And and I think there's like some sort of delusion where it's like, oh, because the CEO says so, then everyone has to adopt that stance or viewpoint. And it's like, no,
Or you're
it's
fired.
What?
Or you're fired.
Yeah, or you're fired. It's like, then no, and that's illegal, and you could sue him. But it's just.
We live in a wild time, Andy, with a lot of, like, weird. We're going through a period of weird ideologies that compete with one another, and it's just, stuff like this where we're not able to, like, tell jokes, or God forbid, have an opinion on something or have a discussion about something. And facts and speech are being limited, or manipulated. That's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because the whole like wage gap thing, and when President Obama touted out that false claim of like 70 cents, women are paid 70 cents for every dollar a man makes. I was like, how the hell was that allowed to be uttered by the President of the United States?
Yeah,
because it's demonstrably false, because that statistic is the average of every man working regardless of position or experience, and the average of every woman working regardless of position, uh, uh, experience, educate, all like the kind of the important kind of details that separate, because it was being there. So they're making comparative comparisons from everyone from executives to housekeeping.
Right.
And so, that's, and they just did, like, they basically took the average numbers, did subtraction, and it's like, boom, got that 70 cents to every dollar.
Like I said,
statistic.
You see a lot of coming from that side where they try to oversimplify everything, and it's like, oh, it's this one thing that's wrong. But then the majority of problems that, like, occur in this world are not necessarily about, like, one thing. It's usually like something where, like in the case of this supposed wage gap problem. It's, first of all, like, what law is on the books saying that, like, that's okay? Like, that there's no law or litigation of some sort that has occurred where that's been allowed. Like, it seems pretty illegal, if you ask me, if that's the case. And if it was allowed, if that was a real thing, why are men at work? It's like it's kind of
right. It's like if employers could get away with paying women less, the same work that a man would do, then why the hell are there any men working in the workplace now?
But I
It
think if
just
you
doesn't
look
make
at
any
something
sense.
like exactly. So there's that. But then you look at something like what that former Google employee, James Damore, put out about, and he kind of broke down where he thought, like, the differences between the genders, both the positives and negatives on both sides, and why why men and women kind of complement each other. It's like there's just people have different men and women have different outlooks on life. There's a
They have
lot of
different
women.
interests, and they ultimately have different end goals.
Yeah.
It's like go to a random person and say, it's like, be a petroleum engineer. It's like, well, go to a woman and say, be a petroleum engineer. It's like, no matter what your interests are. It's like it's like, it's kind of dangerous. It's kind of dangerous work, but you get paid a lot of money. And
yeah,
it's just like, it's like, well, I don't, and the woman might say, like, I don't want to be a petroleum engineer. It's like, no, you have to be.
right. It's it's one of those things too where like there's some and I don't think it's a knock on women per se. Like my mom's like kind of like one of those, like, she's a strong woman, but most of her life she was a homemaker. Like she helped like raise me, take care of the house and all that. And that way, so our house was, I knew that, like, when I went home, like, we had a stable home. Like, there was nothing that, like, if anything, if I never needed anything, like, my mom was there, or, I knew, like, and so there was that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, my mom wasn't, like, unhappy. Like, she's actually, like, she was very happy. There's times now where I think she works now after, like, I left the house, because I was the only child. So once I left, she was like, well, I need to do something. Like, there's no reason for me to be a homemaker anymore. So she got a job, but she's like, honestly, I was way happier, like, being a stay-at-home mom than than working. And that's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, a lot of women are much more people-oriented, and so there's a lot of jobs where, like, that's something where they're dealing with people all the time, and they're probably a lot better at it than like you or I would be, because sometimes, like, we're more interested in, like, doing things, seeing things, acquiring things. Women see things, see life as something more of hanging out with, dealing with people, talking with people, conversing.
That's why HR departments are that's why a lot of HR departments are awash with women. It's because it's a very interface heavy position where you have to, like, constantly deal with people.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something that that women, I think, do a heck of a lot better than guys do, and that's not like a 100% across the board. It's just overall statistics.
Because they talk about, like, how there's not enough women CEOs or whatever. It's like, well, okay, then why don't you complain about how there's not enough male nurses? Because women absolutely dominate in the nursing field.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you want to talk about like full, like, parity, it's like, why don't you complain about that? Or why don't you complain about more female trash collectors, or sewage sewage maintenance workers, more female, more of those. Say, oh, well, because those jobs aren't as sexy or glamorous as being a CEO.
Right. And
even though it's like sanitation workers are get paid really well. You get paid a lot of money to handle other people's trash.
Yeah, I remember, like, when I was looking for work, I actually, like, was looking at applying at, like, waste management, just because it's not glamorous at all, and it's but you get paid pretty well.
It's good, stable money.
Surprisingly well.
What was that?
So it's like you might be digging in garbage all day, but hey, I'm making more money than you, so so suck it. But no, one of the things that I should I gotta find that quote from Mad Men where the Don Draper, who's the main character, he has he marries this other person later in the show, like it was his second wife, and she's a French Canadian, and the mother of Don Draper's second wife was saying, like, if something about, like, if every girl in the world was a princess, like there's not enough wishes to go, like there's not enough stuff to go around to answer all of, like, your wishes. It's saying it's like you can't have it all. And I'm more than likely butchering that quote, but I thought it was very.
I mean, knowing you, probably yes.
Yeah. So I have to look that up, but the idea is kind of like what we're talking about is, sometimes you just can't have it all. Like, guys and girls, you just can't have it all. Like, there's sometimes where you have to make sacrifices, and you're not going to get all that you want.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, with like the whole like women thing, it's, sorry to say that, you guys have, the biological requirement to have the children and to physically sustain them. That's just the fact of life. And, even if you are taking care of the kids, that doesn't mean, you have to be completely out of the workforce. You could get a part-time job. You could start a, small home business. There are other, if you feel like, you need, you need that other little thing, then yeah, it's not gonna be the same as if, you didn't have kids and you're just working all the time. But
right,
that you have to, I know it's kind of a dirty word now, but you have to learn to compromise.
It's one of those things too where, men and women both need each other. It's not like,
right,
I'm a man, so I'm better than a woman. It's like,
right.
no, like,
yeah, I have no use for a woman at all.
Yeah, like it's like, yeah, women need men, and men need women. And you look at if you look through the history of the world, yeah, okay, women have been not treated all that well, like, at points in history, but you
right.
look
but
at
nowadays, like, yeah, but
modern Christendom and, like, Western civilization, and you see more of, like, how, like, women and children have actually been treated a lot better as time has gone on, and
right.
where, it's a virtue that, like, kind of men work to, protect and serve women, and and vice versa. Like, women are there to, like, serve and love and respect, like, the man, like, men too.
Right, they're there to provide the other needs that the man can't. Because the man would provide, and the woman would make sure that the man had a nice, place to come home at night, and and not have to worry about the upkeep of, the cave or the house or what have you.
I was looking at I was helping out Joyce with, like, some assignment, like, several months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was talking about like, divorce rates, and how, like, back at the turn of the 20th century, how, divorce rates were actually very small. And it's not because, a lot of people were being married because of, necessity in a lot of times, and, like, they relied on one another to survive. Like, because you can't do everything, so I have, like, for, like, I'll take care of, like, these chores, like, so we have food this way, and finances, and then the woman is kind of doing something similar in another portion of the household. And if any one of them, like, stopped doing their part of the job, they would die. It's kind of like, and obviously, like, that's not necessarily as much of a issue now, and you kind of see the rates of divorce go up because it's more of a feeling than a commitment a lot of times.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the commitment part of marriage has all been taken out. Just like, it's been, fruit up, where it's like, oh, feeling, oh, I feel so much love for this person, and but there's nothing, to anchor or to, nothing for it to, like, grow roots and to really sink and secure a foundation, for, that, that love, or, like, let's use the image of a tree. Let's say, a tree with, like, really deep roots that go really deep down and are able to hold onto that ground to withstand, like, the strongest winds, and if your love doesn't have that, then it's, it won't stand up to even the softest of summer breezes.
Yeah. And like, when you can love someone when they're being very unlovable, that's something.
Yeah, I mean, because it's easy to love someone, when they're are being lovable. The key is to love that person even when they're being a piece of shit.
Trust me, it's hard. It's very hard.
Yes, it is. We're coming up on the hour half mark. I think that's a good place for us to cut it.
For us to wrap.
Yes.
Sounds like
so. I mean, any parting words of wisdom you would like to leave to people?
Well, I don't know about words of wisdom, but just hopefully you enjoyed this pre-tape. We'll be back, hopefully, live next time, and keep enjoying Fly Up Down. I've been enjoying the comments that we've gotten, so keep them coming, and we got more episodes. We're working on some more episodes, so keep tuning in.
All right, you heard the man. Go check it out. Well, that is going to do it for us tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave us a like, comment. Actually, what? Really do leave us a comment, because I like to know what you guys think. How do you guys liking this program? We really enjoy the feedback. Also, the likes also help with the old algorithm there at YouTube, and it'll help get us in front of more eyeballs. So if you could give it a like, I'd really appreciate that. Don't forget to check out Robert's show. It drops Up by Up Down every Thursday. And don't forget to come back on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. for Nocturnal Transmissions. And don't forget, we do also have the live stream. The live comments. So during the stream, you could post a comment with a question, or maybe a topic you want our take on. We'll definitely handle those.
Well, we're always up for suggestions.
Yes. Yeah. It's I know we make it look easy, but sometimes we don't have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we're still able to fill in the hour and then some. But every once in a while, it would be nice to be posed a question that we might be able to answer, or give our take on.
Absolutely.
So yes, and don't forget to follow us on our social medias: Twitter at podcastcoj, and on Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. So with that, we say good night to y'all, and we'll see you next time.